I've spoken about the blatant media bias during the U.S. election campaign that favors Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump. It's bothered me for a few reasons. First off, it really undermines the credibility of the media in general because it destroys any pretense of impartiality. I also think it shows a lot of disrespect for the public. They should come first, not the media's political preference. I also cringe at the shallowness that continues to decry a Trump presidency while ignoring the serious ramifications for democracy of a Hillary Clinton presidency. To be fair, I see a few columnists now who are starting to appreciate the far-reaching consequences of what the emails unequivocally describe is the massive conflict of interest, breach of public trust that mixing high office with personal gain that was commonplace with the Clintons. If you ever wondered how the Clintons were able to amass a fortune of $200 to $300 million since Bill Clinton left office, you only have to read the revelations regarding the Clinton Foundation. I can't resist just sharing one of the contents of the emails. My bet is you haven't read or heard about it because the Canadian media is too interested in covering the numerous verbal calamities made by Trump. In the email, Doug Band, who worked for both the Clinton Foundation and Bill Clinton personally, confirms that, in quotes, he had arranged $50 million in for-profit activity. That's going back also 5 years. Up to that point, $50 million in for-profit activity, as well as $66 million in future contracts, end of quote. I mean, there you have it. The email revelations are just shocking, and the tendency to ignore many of them does bother me. But here's my biggest beef when it comes to focusing exclusively on Mr. Trump's numerous shortcomings. The commentators ignore the reasons for his popularity. Yes, be a surprise here, but multimillionaire, anti-capitalist, major Clinton supporter Michael Moore came closer this week to explaining the Trump phenomena than any commentator in the country, with the exception maybe of Rex Murphy, when he stated that Trump supporters aren't racist, they're not rednecks. They will vote for the man who threatens to upend and overturn the very system that has ruined their lives. He's talking about the 95 million permanently unemployed, the unemployed black youth who see no future coming out of an inner-city school system that not a single politician, including President Obama, would let their children near. He's talking about the families of black men who've been gunned down by police and the families of the police officers who were killed in retaliation. The U.S. is experiencing the worst race relations since the 60s. He's talking about the dispossessed middle class who have seen their financial lives suffer while Washington's political establishment experiences skyrocketing increases to their personal wealth. The 46 million Americans who use food stamps, the 48% of Americans who believe the American dream is over. These are the people who Hillary Clinton dismisses as deplorable, which reflects a profound lack of understanding of what tens of millions of Americans have been going through. Now, Ms. Clinton herself acknowledges as much in a speech to J.P. Morgan, which she said, and I quote, "I'm kind of far removed because the life I've lived and the economic fortunes that my husband and I now enjoy," end of quote. No kidding. There are not many Americans who even dream of making an estimated $250 million plus from a life in politics. And how do they earn their money? By selling influence. But she's not alone. These are the people held in contempt and marginalized by both Republicans and Democrats, by Hollywood elites, by every commentator who glibly dismisses Trump's popularity. Bill Maher uses his television platform to ask, how could anyone support Trump? With a smugness that reflects an absolute cluelessness regarding the plight of millions of Americans. The same goes for the likes of Jon Stewart, John Oliver, who smugly dismiss half of the American public, mainly because they're not like them. As they keep telling us, in order to vote for Trump, you have to be uneducated, a redneck, or a racist. Couldn't it be the fact that Americans' median wealth dropped by 43% between 2007 and 2014, while the net worth of the average congressman jumped 28%? No matter what happens in the rest of the country, recession, subprime credit crisis, Washington keeps growing. Wages keep rising. They couldn't understand, as Peggy Noonan does, that Washington no longer represents the public, it dominates them. These kind of media people, along with the sycophants of the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, who has a host on record as saying they couldn't have done more to help Hillary, none of them understand that we're seeing the rejection of the political establishment en masse, both Republican and Democrat. But it's more than that. This is the first step in a revolution, especially if Hillary wins. The discontentment is growing. Dismissing them only fuels those flames. The failed pension system at the state and municipal level guarantees the next election will make this one seem tame. I've said for years in this show that the poor are simply political props, especially for people who describe themselves as progressive. Well, meanwhile, for the record number of Americans on food stamps, the 40% of black youth who are unemployed, the 62% of Americans who don't have $1,000 in the bank, the 21% who have nothing in the bank, absolutely no progress has been made. And when you look at the dismissive attitude of Hillary Clinton and the mainstream media, it's not hard